As we move forward and try to make Film Riot better than ever before, one of the things that we're trying to work hard to do is bring you advice and info from the pros. Filmmakers out there doing some of the biggest stuff going, and today will be one of those episodes. Thanks to Cook Optics TV from the guys over at ImageNova, today we're going to be hearing from a few amazing DPs like Oscar winner Billy Williams, Anthony Dodd Mantle, who's the DP of Rush and 28 Days Later, and the incredible Bradford Young, DP of Arrival and Solo. Cook Optics TV has a ton of amazing content over on their channel as well, so click up there or the link in the notes below to find more great stuff from them. But now, let's hear from the pros about getting started in the industry.
Logo.
So did you always, well, just as we were did you always want to be a cinematographer?
Yeah, I did want to. Yeah, I think, well, I kind of realised my limitations. Well, first of all, I saw, there's like a number of films that I saw as a kid, which meant you saw them on TV. These were like serious films. BBC Two, late at night, you know, black and white TV. I don't know if the films were colour or not, but I just had this yearning to do it. What it was, I wasn't quite sure. It was like you're telling stories and, you know, but the magic of it, obviously, which I didn't even question, is the cinema, the cinematography. It's like capturing an image is what's amazing. You know, acting and, you know, and fulfilling all the needs of a script and having the vision and everything is critical, but capturing that image is what makes cinema what it is. So cinematography was the natural thing for me. I felt, you know, that was my limitations, where I probably couldn't have been a good director. I probably never could ever be an actor, you know. But I had to do something physical. I had to get in there and do the physical thing, and that's cinematography. That's the key to it. Yeah.
One of the first jobs that you have when you, and my cousins and all of us all worked there, my sisters as well, is that, you know, your first job in the funeral home is to set up chairs for all the different, for all the wakes and the visitations. And there was a rule, you know, you had to line them up perfectly. They had to be an even amount apart from one another. There was a door, a central door that led to the mortuary, to the chapel. And at the head of the chapel, there was the casket, and it was perfectly laid out in a very straight line, and it was surrounded by flowers that all sort of tapered off on the side. And there was an open lane between the two sets of chairs that led you right to the casket. So form was a really composition, form. Balance was a real important design gesture in the film room. So, you know, those things stuck with me, and so I think those are really like the building blocks of how I develop my visual sensibility, my mind's eye, my visual perspective on things.
You have to, and I had to, first become a little more confident about what I want to do. Not good at it, but confident that is what I want to do. And then I don't think the fear is as big as, you know, you fear you fail, and that's still something that's in the heart and head of any film student or person who's learning and trying to impress or trying to learn. But I mean, the fearing of fail should, you know, not govern your life. You've just got to have a go at it. And I think people who've got any tolerance and experience themselves remember what they've been at that stage themselves, and you're surrounded by people that know how you feel. And if you just behave properly, cordially and intelligently and do your best, then you shouldn't be scared about walking onto a set, and whether it's offering to make a cup of tea, knowing you can do a lot more, or, you know, pull the DIT equipment apart and put it back together again. It doesn't matter, as long as you look at the people who you have to look into the eyes and be honest about it. Don't pretend you can do more than you can, because you always fall. I mean, there's still people who've been in the business and made 20 films without me naming anybody, you know, who sometimes slip into a situation, a nasty corner where they're pretending more than they're just being honest. And we all live and learn every day and make mistakes and learn from them.
You know, I think for me in the beginning when I started, I was just so happy to be working. I kind of, you know, anything that came along, I wanted to do. Because for me, I always thought, you know, the more I can do, the more I can learn, you know. And I think in this job, you know, there are certain things you can learn in film schools and all of that, but really, to really learn, you have to make mistakes. And mistakes you can only make when you're doing something. So, you know, when I first started, I just took everything that came along. And, you know, looking back on it, there was, you know, things that I might not want to do now, you know, when I look at the script, for example. But back then it was just, I just wanted to shoot, you know, and I wanted to shoot as much as I possibly could.
They're kind of always incremental. Each break is kind of, oh, that's a good break. I mean, I got an American agent a while back, and they got me a job in the States, so shooting with Rob Reiner, and that was just out of going out there and basically seeing people, talking to people. So you do have to be active. You have to, whatever level you are, you kind of have to go out and meet people who don't know you're there. And that led to a job, and that also led to Harry Potter, second unit. So that was 9 months on on Harry Potter. But you never know where every job that comes along is a potential break. And by break, I mean interesting thing to do. You know, you have to work, you have to pay the mortgage, and you always try and do work you're interested in, because you only do your best work if you're interested in the project.
I think when you're young, you just get on with what you've got and make the best of it. And I think, and it was a great advantage to me that I was able to learn from my father the basic essentials of filmmaking. But it was only later on, as I worked my way through commercials and eventually got a break into features, that I began to appreciate the storytelling side of the visuals, you know, what the cinematographer can contribute to the drama.
Well, the thing about working at the BBC is you learnt a lot, because they shot all types of film. I did a documentary series which had a lot of sets and which required a camera crane. I had another documentary film that used front projection and stuff like that. So you were shooting special effects for programs like Doctor Who and all of those things. So we learned a hell of a lot. And it was constant work, and there were 60 cameramen there at the time, so there's always someone you could ask about something. So we sort of learnt a lot just by doing all those different things. And therefore, once you leave, you bring that stuff with you, that knowledge with you. And the only difference between shooting features and shooting for television was the politics of the production, basically.
One of the pivotal moments for me while I was at the Royal College is that I did a job with Walter Lassley, who had won for Zorba the Greek an Oscar. And he was, of course, traditional English-style lighter, where all of your lights were hard lights, 5Ks, 10Ks, 1Ks, 2Ks, pups and babies. And I remember we shot a scene in the Savoy Hotel. It was a Millicent Merchant movie. And he lit in a very heavily mirrored environment. He could only put the lamps in a strange diagonal line across the middle of the room. But he had, I think, about 7 heads, all pointed to different parts of the room, and they were all on the pin. They were full spot, and then he wired them all down so that they contributed to a kind of patina of light going up and down. Whereas modern lighting tends to be much softer than that now, but it was helpful for me to remember how this guy had lit. Of course, when you get to Hollywood, it's all about the hard lighting, and the traditional gaffers will drag you in that direction. But the more modern gaffers will have you working with keener flows and soft light and big banks of light and very big soft washes and using negative fill and so on. So somewhere in the middle of there is a rather lovely moment where Conrad Hall was a great exponent of using lights, full spot, to augment an otherwise wash of softness or gentleness from a certain area, and then punctuating it with this hard light.
How did you get into fear of failing?
By understanding that you're always going to a certain extent, fail. You always let yourself down a little bit. And if you sort of understand that it's never going to be perfect, and you stop searching for some kind of sublime, perfection, then failing's a big word, but not quite nailing it is a better way of saying, it's a complicated group art form. It's not like you're the one person with a paintbrush or the camera and it's just you. You're surrounded by, galloping egos and enthusing people as well, just like yourself. And it's about getting that all to gel into one very powerful energy source that hopefully goes in the same direction, in the right direction, and then guided by a director, you can take a film quite a long way.
Domain.com has all your website needs, including .com and .net domain names and intuitive website builders to take the first steps in creating an identity online. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and has the tools you need to build a new website so you can start sharing your ideas with the world on a professional website. No domain extension is going to help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name, and if you want to brand yourself online, Domain.com has over 300 domain name extensions to fit your needs from .club to .space. Of course, they're giving you 15% off their already affordable prices when you get domain names, web hosting, and email. Just use the coupon code FilmRiot at Domain.com's checkout. And when you think domain names, think Domain.com.
Logo.
So that's it. Again, a big thank you to Cook Optics TV. Be sure to check out their stuff below. And if you haven't seen it, check out the trailer for my new short film, Ballistic. Also in the notes, only one more week until we release it into the world. So make sure you come back here on the 27th for that. And I'll see you next time when I will have released my short film.